Wang, the high school student in the fictional city of Huaxiu, possesses extraordinary magical powers that he tries to keep hidden and appear average among his peers. Even as a child, his power was so immense that he fearlessly confronted and defeated a monstrous giant frog. However, this remarkable feat remains largely unknown to others, and the credit is mistakenly given to someone else. On the first day of his new high school year, Wang enters the campus and notices the statue of Zhu Yi, who was renowned as the man who saved Huaxiu. As he makes his way inside, two senior students, noticing his low force value, which is a number representing one's prowess in the realm of spiritual abilities, decide to bully him and ask for money. Their bullying, however, is abruptly interrupted by a golden beam of fire. A girl flies down from the sky, declaring that it is unfair to bully a freshman with a low force value, and the girl is none other than Sun Rong, the daughter of the legendary Flower Fruit Water Curtain Group. Everyone admires her, while the seniors, intimidated by her reputation, quickly retreat, claiming that boys shouldn't fight with girls. She approaches Wang and assures him that she will protect him no matter what, and they shake hands. But to everyone's surprise, he hands her the $10 that the bullies demanded from him, leaving everyone very confused, including Sun Girl, as she thought her night rate was higher than that. Later, Zhu appears in a hologram form and asks the students to gather for a spiritual force test to determine their class placement, and the students with excellent scores would be placed in class elite, while others would be in the ordinary class. As the test begins, the first student, Xuan, finds himself in a dark room with water on the floor when suddenly, a giant frog appears, and the water begins to glow. The students watch the scene unfold on a large display from outside. Sun Girl recognizes the frog as the one that attacked the city many years ago and was defeated by Master Zhuo. But after learning that girls kiss frogs to find a prince, he apparently decided to come back. What a simp. It is revealed by the announcer that the real giant frog is sealed under the campus, and the one they are facing now is merely an incarnation of its spiritual force. The students are instructed to summon their own spiritual force and strike the frog's head. However, many students fail to even touch the barrier. Then, a boy named Chen Chao enters the scene, confidently hitting the frog's barrier with his hand, which glows with fire and is selected for class elite along with Gu Hao, who has an impressive force value of 886. Sun Girl then joins the contest, striking the frog with a force value of 2019, and the crowd hails her as a goddess. As Wang's turn arrives, he catches the frog's attention, which senses his power and recalls their encounter from years ago. The frog contemplates that if he were to attack, its soul and spirit would be in jeopardy. Wang, in order to maintain his average facade, pretends to struggle, exerting minimal force while feigning maximum effort. Just as he is about to strike, the display screen malfunctions, showing an upside-down image of the frog. To everyone's surprise, Wang's force value is displayed as 99,999 on the screen. The crowd is stunned, and Sun Girl realizes that there was no protective membrane around the giant frog this time. He ponders why the frog reacted that way when he hadn't actually struck it, and realizes that it was playing dead. He secures his place in class elite, and the classroom settles down as Pan, the instructor, begins the first summoning lesson. Pan explains that the space around them is filled with spiritual entities, and they must utilize their spiritual force to create a passage in the space and summon a spiritual creature. She further explains that the size and strength of the summoned spiritual entity depend on their force level. The students make their attempts at summoning, with Chen summoning a stick that elicits laughter from the others. Well, I suppose he wanted to branch out with his summoning skills. Meanwhile, Sun Girl successfully summoned a skeletal dog with a cute pink bow tied to its tail and playfully calls it a stray dog. As she observes her creation, she can't help but wonder how much spiritual force is really required to summon a genuine spiritual beast. When it is Wang's turn to summon, a blast occurs in the classroom, and he unexpectedly summons the giant frog from the test, triggering panic among the students. The instructor Pan swiftly intervenes, merging Sun Girl's stray dog with the giant frog, resulting in an odd-looking green-colored dog. The students are filled with awe at the new creation and lovingly name it Froggy 2. The next day arrives, and as Wang makes his way to school, a flood of memories from his childhood washes over him, reminding him of the reasons why he has always strived to maintain a low profile. He reflects on the extraordinary events that seem to unfold around him, starting from the very moment of his birth itself, and recalls the moment when, as an infant, he emerged into the world from his mother's womb unassisted, astonishing his parents with his seemingly innate power. Why hire a midwife when you can superhero your way out of the womb? But his extraordinary abilities didn't stop there, and as he grew older, he discovered that his touch alone proved to be a force to be reckoned with, shattering a prized limited edition dragon slaughtering sword that his parents had lovingly bought for him. although he knew that his mother had actually purchased a counterfeit sword to prevent his father from wasting half of his hard-earned money. The extraordinary incidents continued to occur as he grew older, and on one unforgettable birthday, he inadvertently set the entire house ablaze while attempting to blow out the candles atop his cake. Forget nursery rhymes, this guy was busy shattering swords and setting houses ablaze even as a kid. Nevertheless, when his parents witnessed him defeating the giant frog of level 5 at the age of 6, they decided that Wang needed to lead an ordinary and happy life. They provided him with a protective amulet to wear on his back neck and a golden pill to be taken daily in order to suppress his power. Despite these measures, he remained strong, and his father promised to create a new amulet that will be more effective in concealing his power. Until then, Wang resolved to attend school and maintain the lowest possible profile, blending in seamlessly with the rest of the students around him. Upon arriving at school, he finds himself amidst a heated election for the position of class chief, with Chen and Sun Girl locked in a fierce competition for the coveted title. Sun Girl, in an attempt to sway voters, offers free items from the store to freshmen who support her candidacy, which leads Chen and Gu to criticize her for cheating. However, she views it as an opportunity to showcase her talents and charm. Nobody accepts the free gifts but Wang, who is driven by his insatiable craving for Sun Girl's mouth-watering noodles, strikes a deal with her, promising to cast 5 votes in her favor in exchange for 5 packets of the dried crispy noodles. Upon seeing him accept her gifts, everyone starts to get free items in exchange for their votes. She then skillfully employs her seductive arts, marked by the appearance of magical signs floating above the heads of those who receive her gifts. As the scene unfolds, he bids his farewell to Sun Girl and offers her a golden pill, a spiritual force containment gift bestowed upon him by his mother. He believes that 1 vote alone does not suffice to repay her generosity of 5 packets of noodles. Little does he realize the misunderstanding that will follow. In the classroom, the teacher delves into the art of seduction and the use of incantations and hand seals to project spiritual force onto others. The origins of the spell are revealed, tracing back 1,000 years to a mysterious figure known as Little Wise Guy, who once commanded a devoted following of over 3,000 disciples. The teacher then proceeds to explain the prerequisites for casting the seduction spell, emphasizing the importance of giving a gift while reciting the incantation, not giving the tiniest part of me to benefit the world. This act creates a spiritual field that temporarily relaxes the guard of the recipient's minds, allowing the spiritual force to leave a mark and exert control. Wang's suspicions arise as he recalls Sun Girl giving items for free and wonders if she has used this seduction spell on everyone. However, a sudden realization dawns upon him. He gave her the golden pill as a return gift, meaning he shouldn't have been affected by the spell. With a quick and subtle gesture, he signals her to consume the pill instead, who, unfortunately, interprets his constant staring as a sign of romantic interest. Poor Sun Girl, thinking she found a new source of power in Wang's golden pill, consumes it, but little did she know, it was more like a spiritual strength drain. This sudden turn of events releases everyone from the grasp of her seduction spell, and Chen emerges triumphant in the election, ascending to the esteemed role of class president. The next day, on his way to the pill refining class, Wang meets Sun Girl, who arrives at the school in a big car with protective bodyguards. She walks on a red carpet with an air of importance, and he notices a magical sign on top of her head, realizing that he had inadvertently used the seduction spell on Sun Girl. He approaches her cautiously, reaching out to gently touch her hair, and proceeds to destroy the sign by rubbing it off, which relieves her of its bewildering effect. However, his unexpected actions left both Gu and Chen puzzled, wondering how Wang could behave so rudely to Sun Girl. Inside the classroom, their instructor, Pan, explains the intricate process of creating a vitality pill using the Yangsheng pot and furnace, and the students discreetly size up each other's furnace for the task. Chen proudly brings a copper cauldron that belonged to his great-grandfather and daydreams about Sun Girl admiring him because of his possession of such a treasure heirloom. The instructor then guides the class through the initial steps of furnace preparation, emphasizing that patience is key as the pill's formation would require a substantial duration of 7 hours, and encourages them to return later to check its progress. The students begin their work enthusiastically, eager to prove themselves to one another. Gu thinks to himself that Chen's family furnace is better suited for large-scale production, while acknowledging the challenges it would have for precise heat control in smaller quantities. Sun Girl, showcasing her privilege, proudly presents a refining machine sourced from her family's esteemed factory. Wang, ever the unconventional one, opted for the humble microwave, bringing a modern twist to pill making. Meanwhile, Gu, ever the practical one, wielded an antique-style furnace adorned with a built-in temperature control and display, radiating confidence in his pill preparation abilities. However, the tranquility of the classroom was shattered when Chen's cauldron suddenly exploded, unleashing chaos and panic. He flees in distress, afraid of what his father might say, and his anguished cries echo through the hallways. Later, Froggy 2 enters the classroom and consumes Gu's furnace to absorb its spiritual energy, so that it can become more powerful. However, Wang, anticipating Froggy 2's actions, returns in time. A game of cat and mouse ensued as Froggy 2, sensing danger from him, leaped out of the window in a desperate attempt to evade his grasp. He quickly catches up to Froggy 2 and forcefully retrieves the furnace, and then goes to the toilet to wash it. However, Gu misunderstands the situation when he sees Wang coming out of the toilet with his furnace. Fueled by confusion and suspicion, Gu confronts him, aiming a gun, while Wang, in an earnest attempt to explain the truth, found himself caught in a web of misunderstanding. Despite his explanation, Gu does not trust him and pulls the trigger, but accidentally shoots the pentatonic poison from the gun into Chen's mouth as Chen runs towards Wang, causing him to collapse. As Wang desperately tries to save Chen, Gu remains oblivious and asks for Wang's help in preparing the antidote to cure Chen and keep the situation a secret. In exchange, he promises to forgive Wang for taking his furnace. They carefully carry Chen to the classroom, and armed with a level 3 textbook, they begin preparing the antidote, knowing it will require at least a 4-hour wait. While they wait, Froggy 2, ever mischievous, attempts to snack on the furnace once again. Reacting quickly, Gu uses a flash that causes Froggy 2 to emit spiritual energy, turning it into an impromptu preheater. He checks the furnace and realizes that Froggy 2's spiritual energy has unintentionally preheated it. Seeing this as a stroke of luck, they decide to use Froggy 2's spiritual energy to their advantage, directing it onto the furnace to expedite the process. Just as they finish, they hear the sound of the class returning, signaling their imminent discovery. Wang springs into action, hastily attempting to cover up the scene, while Gu frantically tries to stall the incoming students. Despite Gu's efforts, Instructor Pan and the rest of the students enter the class. To his surprise, everything appears normal and he realizes that Wang successfully covered up the scene quickly. Instructor Pan comes to check Gu's furnace and retrieves a golden pill, giving him a remarkable score of 85. However, when the instructor comes to check Wang's pill in the microwave, she finds it broken and charred, resembling an explosive. Pan proceeds to scold him for doing a poor job, leading Gu to suspect that Wang gave his own pill to Gu and took Chen's pill for himself. Inwardly, he made a solemn vow to become Wang's best friend, ignorant of the fact that his own pill had remained safely tucked within the furnace throughout their trials, while Wang's microwave had obviously failed in its task of pill creation. After class, they take Chen out of his cauldron, and it turns out that, in a rush to hide Chen, Wang threw him into his own broken cauldron. Later, Chen wakes up on the ground and asks about his cauldron. Go replies that they managed to fix it. He then hugs Wang, apologizes for thinking badly about him, and breaks down in tears. In a classroom, Sun Girl approaches Wang, asking him on a date and leaving him speechless. Just then, he notices 2 assassins wearing rabbit masks on a nearby roof, aiming a sniper rifle at Sun Girl. Acting swiftly, he uses his powers to redirect the bullet, saving Sun Girl's life. Unaware of the danger she was in, she continues to plead with Wang to go on a date with her. Seeing her choose Wang over him, Chen becomes upset and starts to cry, and Gu comforts him. Just then, the administrator enters the classroom and asks for Wang, who acknowledges the instructor and goes with him. Sun Girl mistakenly believes that Wang said yes to her, and rumors of a love story between them girls start circulating on the official faction's 60 page. The instructor introduces Wang to the joint honorary master immortal of the school, Li, Master Zhu Yi, and leaves them to discuss. Immediately, Zhu recognizes him as the boy who defeated the giant frog and addresses him with respect as master, and asks Wang to take him as a disciple. However, he uses his power of erasing memories on Master Zhuo, a technique that makes targets lose memory of designated events and potentially fall into a vegetative state. To ensure Zhu's safety, he reduces the power of the technique by half and then leaves the room. He then goes to a quiet place to eat his dried crispy noodles, but is joined by Froggy 2, who informs him of the assassins. The next day, Wang experiences nightmares about Sun Girl while he sleeps and abruptly wakes up in his room and notices her and her security guards waiting for him on the road through the open window. Startled, he quickly closes the curtain and heads downstairs to have breakfast. To his horror, his parents are thrilled about the prospect of him dating Sun Girl, and they urge him to eat quickly and not keep her waiting for long. His parents even argue about his newfound dating life while he purposely tries to delay by checking his social media. His parents proudly show him the high-end nutrition pills that Sun Girl gave them, claiming it can enhance a person's beauty. Wang's father becomes excited about his son's new relationship and begins offering him tips and advice. He is then forced out of his house by his parents for him to go on a date with her. Reluctantly, he gets into Sun Girl's car and secretly wishes that the assassins mentioned earlier by Froggy 2 would show up now. She informs him that they are heading to a fun park called Heavenly Paradise, which happens to be her family's real estate project that combines commerce and recreation, and mentions that her grandfather built it exclusively for her. Trying to tease Wang, she playfully tells him that she hasn't seen the place before, as she had planned to bring the love of her life there for the first time, before bursting into laughter, admitting it was just a joke. Inside the fun park, they visit the Cave of the Universe, where a guide explains that the stone wall inside the cave is a prophecy wall. It is said that if they put their hands in the fairy's mouth, the wall will prophesize their relationship's future with an echo. Sun Girl, believing in the legend, convinces him to try it. However, just as they approach the fairy's mouth, he notices the two assassins who had been following them into Heavenly Paradise. The assassins quickly draw their guns and fire, but Wang manages to catch the bullet in his mouth, and she, misunderstanding Wang's reaction, thinks he is smiling at her and blushes. In order to protect her and prevent any harm, he uses his powers to stop the assassins. He then employs his ability to erase memories, using his 50% forgetting trick to remove this incident from both Sun Girl's and the guide's minds. Wang and Sun Girl continue their date, enjoying various rides and games, with Wang ensuring their safety by thwarting any further attempts by the assassins. He also uses his forgetting trick whenever necessary to erase these incidents from their memory. Later, at sunset, she asks him if they can ride the Ferris wheel together and watch the fireworks. Wang agrees, thinking that he might find a moment of tranquility on the Ferris wheel, but was proven wrong. They both climb onto the seat and sit facing each other. However, the assassins follow them inside the Ferris wheel as it takes off. While they enjoy the beautiful spectacle, the assassins suddenly confront them, brandishing guns. Sun Girl suspects that the assassins are from the Shadow faction and positions herself between the assassins and Wang, determined to protect him. Seeing this, Wang becomes furious, his eyes glowing a bright red color. He uses his eyes to disable the guns and phones of the assassins, incapacitating them, and swiftly kicks them out of the Ferris wheel cabin. Wang then asks Sun Girl to keep everything that happened a secret and requests a promise. For the first time in his life, he uses his 100% trick of promise, sealing all memories of today's events in Sun Girl's mind forever as a secret. The following day at school, the atmosphere is tense as Gu and Chen eagerly ask Wang about his date with Sun Girl. Sun Girl herself arrives in her grand car, accompanied by her vigilant bodyguards, and joins the conversation. Her bodyguards form a protective circle around them as the school's administrator informs them about the ongoing threat from the assassins who tried to attack her at Heavenly Paradise. Zhou arrives and begins discussing the special security measures in place for the day, claiming that he was the one who thwarted the assassins yesterday. Chen enthusiastically cheers for Zhu's bravery. However, in reality, it was Wang who stopped the assassins and used his 50% forgetting trick on Zhu the previous night. This ensured that Zhu would remember himself as the hero who stopped the attackers, allowing Wang to maintain a low profile at school. Zhu informs everyone that a kill order from the Shadow faction has been issued for Sun Girl, indicating that anyone targeted by the order won't survive the following day. He explains the heightened security measures implemented to protect Sun Girl, such as stationed soldiers at the gate and various levels of security within the building, including bodyguards of the Golden Pill phase and above throughout the school. Zhu instructs everyone to gather in his office, which is equipped with a powerful protective force field. Additionally, he mentions that the 7-star squad will patrol the area on their magical flying swords to prevent distant sniper or aerial attacks. They gather in the office, and Zhu reassures them that they will be safe here. Shen becomes excited when he spots the 7-star squad patrolling the school campus from the window, and the administrator acknowledges that this is the highest level of protection ever implemented since the establishment of the school. Suddenly, Zhuo and the administrator notice Xu Feng, the third member of the Hammer team and a late Golden Pill phase Red Ribbon from the Shadow faction, attacking the guards with his chicken hammer as he proceeds. Xu Feng then strikes the camera with his chicken hammer, causing the screen to malfunction and resulting in Zhu and the administrator losing their camera connection. The students pay no attention to this as they are preoccupied with chatting in the elite class group about the events that unfolded at Heavenly Paradise during Sun Girl and Wang's date yesterday. Zhu speaks on his phone and requests a reduction in the number of armed cruisers at the gate, while increasing the guards at the central lobby of the school. Another assassin, Xiu Ying, the second member of the Hammer team and a late Golden Pill phase Red Ribbon from the Shadow faction, known for his expertise in toxins, incapacitates the elite guards with a toxic gas. However, the administrator confronts Xu Ying and engages him in a fight. The students, including Zhuo, watch the battle unfold on a screen from inside the office. Meanwhile, Wang finds himself craving crispy noodles and places an order from his mobile and patiently waits for the delivery to arrive. The fight between Xu Ying and the administrator continues, with the administrator successfully avoiding Su Ying's traps. Just as Su Ying tries to make his escape and sprint towards the office, Wang surprises him by simply opening the door and knocking him out. He immediately apologizes and goes to pick up his food delivery. Zhu reassures Sun Girl that Wang will be alright, emphasizing that the assassins are after her specifically. On his way, he encounters Su Jian, the leader of the Hammer team, and a late Golden Pill phase Red Ribbon King known for his power of invisibility and wielding a massive hammer of immense strength. Su Jian, concealed in invisibility, prepares to engage in battle and shatter the powerful protective spiritual field once he gathers enough power in his hammer. However, he is taken aback when Wang passes by him and acknowledges his presence. As the delivery arrives, the 7-star squad inspects it for any harmful items before handing it over to Wang. Su Jian assumes that Wang was referring to the delivery and that he didn't actually see him. Wang, realizing the misunderstanding, apologizes to Su Jian for accidentally knocking out his friend. Su Jian is taken aback that Wang can see him and becomes furious. He swings his fully charged hammer at Wang, but it lands on him like an egg on a rock, leaving Wang completely unscathed. Meanwhile, Wang continues to eat his crispy noodles casually. Su Jian is terrified and wonders how Wang has this much spiritual energy despite him being in the primary phase. Wang then pulls Zhu Jian outside, who has collapsed on the ground. Zhu emerges to congratulate him and addresses him as master. Wang once again utilizes his 50% forgetting trick on Zhu, making him believe that he was the one who defeated Su Jian. He then hands Su Jian over to Zhu and pretends to be injured from the attack by the assassins. The assassins are then apprehended by the police, and everyone gathers around Zhu to praise him for his bravery. They notice Wang in Zhu's arms, appearing to be injured. Wang pretends to be sick after the attacks by the assassins at school and takes sick leave, remaining at home for 10 days. His mother shouts at him, urging him to stop pretending and inform the school the following day that he has recovered, insisting that he should return to school the day after tomorrow. He reflects on that day and remembers how concerned Sun Girl was, knowing nothing about what really happened. As a low-profile hero, he feels it's necessary to give credit to Zhu as the one who eliminated the assassins. He lies in his private healing cabin, which Sun Girl summoned the best medical experts to construct, providing him with an immersive healing experience. He contemplates his tragic fate while in the cabin, and it automatically showers him with valuable medicines every hour, which are said to connect his meridians and enhance his vitality. His mother brings breakfast and asks him to come out of the cabin and eat. Just then, Mr. Wang shouts from downstairs that his friends have come to see him. Poor Wang becomes terrified and quickly runs back to the cabin, pretending to be sick, while his mother greets his friends. Upon seeing his friends with flowers and gifts, Wang's mother kindly tells them it was not necessary and goes downstairs to prepare snacks. Go teases Wang for still being sick and introduces his pet bird, Birdie 2, which perches on Wang's healing cabin and repeatedly says, "Camel, camel, camel." Everyone laughs except for Wang, who silently curses the bird and wonders why would his friend want such an ugly pet. Chen then jokingly remarks that there is a resemblance between Wang and Birdie 2, causing him to make a funny face. Sun Girl suddenly remembers that they left Froggy 2 at the door, but Froggy 2 joins Wang's mother when she returns to the room with snacks for everyone. Froggy 2 goes next to Wang and licks his face. His mother thanks them for taking care of him at school, and Sun Girl sees this as an opportunity to build a relationship with her future mother-in-law. She gives Mrs. Wang ultimate elixirs, her family's products that will aid in Wang's recovery, along with some nutrition pills that she had given to Mrs. Wang previously. She also presents an injection containing chicken blood tonic for Wang's full recovery. Wang's mother then leaves, taking the gifts with her and warning him to treat his friends, especially Sun Girl, well. Sun Girl pushes Froggy 2 away and sits down next to him. She asks him if he's feeling better and expresses her worry for him. Then she takes out the chicken blood tonic injection and tells him that, combined with spiritual power, it is said to work miracles for Ling's recovery. The spiritual power infusion involves transferring spiritual power from one cultivator to another to aid in healing the injured. Upon hearing this, Wang becomes scared. Just then, Chen informs him that the administrator gave wristbands to test every student, and that Chen was given Wang's wristband to give it to him during their visit. She becomes very angry at this and argues that the spiritual test will require a lot of energy and he does not have to take the test if he is not feeling very well. A creeped out Wang doesn't want to be injected, let alone combine their spiritual power. To avoid her and her chicken blood tonic, he runs to Chen and grabs the wristband for him, announcing that he has recovered and can therefore test his spiritual powers using the band. They proceed to take their annual spiritual power test, starting with Chen. He demonstrates that one should concentrate all their spiritual force into a sphere, so the wristband can measure the spiritual force. Then they let it burst, which measures the diameter of the spiritual force and provides the results. This test differs from the entrance test as it can show how one's spiritual power can take on any shape. Ken's force power value corresponds to a value of around 600, and Ghoul remarks that this value is not much different from the entrance test. He then explains that this represents force outside the body, achieved by concentrating one's spiritual power and visualizing it externally. It requires persistent training and signifies the ability to manifest spiritual power in any shape, making one a true cultivator. Guo then takes his turn and his spiritual power value only reaches 176, leaving him feeling ashamed. He attempts to jump out of Wang's window in embarrassment, but Chen quickly intervenes, pulling Guo away from the window and urging him to calm down. Sun Girl then suggests that she should probably skip the test to avoid causing any damage. However, Guo and Chen point out that despite coming from a prestigious family, she only scored 2019 in the entrance test, so her sphere shouldn't be that big and therefore would not cause much damage. Sun Girl reluctantly agrees and takes the test. To their surprise, the room nearly explodes from the immense power of Sun Girl's sphere, and she scores a remarkable 40-15, placing second only to Tang Jing's from the Faction 59 school. Guo and Shen are left dumbstruck by the size of her sphere. Now it's Wang's turn to take the test. As he wears the wristband, he considers leaking his spiritual force to score low on the test. Sun Girl takes out the blood tonic injection again and asks if he's feeling better. He quickly replies that he is perfectly alright and doesn't mind taking the test. Initially, he creates a small sphere, thinking it will suffice. However, everyone in the room is literally struggling to stay grounded as his minuscule amount of spiritual energy is enough to blow them away. Who knew that Wang's secret power was being a one-man hurricane? He quickly redirects his spiritual force to outer space, creating a gigantic spiritual force sphere, the size of a planet. Everyone wonders where his original sphere went, and he receives a score of null, surpassing the student from Faction 59. This leaves everyone confused and shocked, wondering if null means 0. Sun Girl explains that this occurred because he was still sick and hadn't fully recovered. Wang suggests that it might be a display error, and Chen and Gu laugh it off before going home. Later, he calls Gu for help hacking into the system to alter his score to 175. Go agrees to assist and starts hacking, while he enjoys his crispy noodles. Go explains that he needs the login password to hack into the school league system and plans to find it using his password-grabbing formation. Surprisingly, the password turns out to be just 8 asterisk symbols. Gu spots Tang Jing's name in second place and replaces it with the name Birdie2, finding it amusing. However, as Gu tampers with the system's coding, an alarm is triggered, and he quickly quits before he can change Wang's score, leaving him disappointed. The next day, Wang is having lunch with his close friend engrossed in a casual conversation. In the background, the TV screen broadcasts the training session of Faction 59 students, capturing their attention. The news channel announces the National Senior Phase Sword Competition and showcases the training field of the Faction 59 school. The reporter emphasizes that the students' abilities are on par with professional standards and highlights Tang Jing's performance of the Big Dipper sword formation. The reporter interviews Tang, asking him about the preparations he has made to win against the rival, Faction 60. He confidently mentions that his teammates have undergone rigorous training for a month. As the interview continues, the reporter asks Tang if he has any message for Faction 60. This catches Wang's friend's attention, and they focus on the screen, while Wang casually continues to eat his crispy noodles. Tang acknowledges Sun Girl's immense power and expresses his eagerness to witness her remarkable abilities at the sword competition. However, when questioned about Wang, who scored null, his frustration becomes apparent. He sarcastically wishes Wang the best in his immortal practice before abruptly concluding the interview. Later that night, Wang and his friends find themselves at home, unwinding after a long day. Suddenly, they receive an unexpected invitation to a chatting group from the administrator, which surprises them all. The administrator reveals that the 5 of them are participants in the 4,396th National Senior Phase Sword Competition. Shockingly, they discover that even Froggy 2, their loyal canine companion, has been included. It turns out that Froggy 2 took the Spiritual Force test and scored an impressive 5,000, surpassing even Tang and earning the right to participate. The group is astonished, discovering that there is a precedent for animals participating in the competition. Excitement fills the air as they contemplate the upcoming competition. Chen shares the news with his father, who expresses overwhelming pride and presents him with a special spiritual sword named Lai Chao. Gu then eagerly shares details about his own cherished sword, which he has possessed for nearly 8 years. The blade was forged using the teeth of the formidable level 3 spiritual beast, known as the Night Devil Tiger. Sun Girl joins the conversation through a video call and showcases her spiritual sword, Ocean. The administrator is immediately shocked by the sword's blue color, and informs them that Sun Girl has produced a sword spirit. Instructor Pan, observing the sword's radiant glow, praises Sun Girl, acknowledging that despite her family's advantages, she has invested time and effort to foster a genuine connection with her sword. Sun Girl then astounds everyone by revealing that her family has forged 13 more swords similar to Ocean, just in case one breaks, leaving the group in awe. The administrator then explains the process of producing a spiritual sword spirit and emphasizes the importance of patience. Initially, the body of a sword spirit is in a chaotic state, but with dedicated effort, it solidifies. The initial form of a sword spirit can manifest as a small beast or as a human, which evolves and upgrades over time, gradually developing intelligence. Some sword spirits, possessed by exceptional cultivators, even have the ability to think. The administrator assures them that they will learn more about this in higher-level classes and encourages them to cultivate a strong bond with their spiritual swords. As the conversation progresses, Froggy 2 becomes the center of attention, and the group playfully teases him, wondering how a dog could possess a spiritual sword. However, to their astonishment, Froggy 2 surprises them all by sending a video of himself pulling out a spiritual sword called Sword of Sky from inside his body with the help of his tongue. They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but Froggy 2 proves that the tongue can wield a spiritual sword just fine. Everyone is left dumbfounded by this unexpected display of power from their canine friend. With all eyes now on Wang, curiosity gets the better of his friends as they eagerly inquire if he too possesses a spiritual sword. All Wang wants to do is eat his crispy noodles in peace, but alas, fate has other plans. After enduring constant pestering from his friends, he finally confirms that he does have a spiritual sword and ends the conversation. No one seems to notice that he didn't want to take part in the competition. He is concerned that if he shows his true power at the competition, it would cause a lot of problems. However, his friend and his instructor take the competition very seriously, leaving him with no option but to say that he indeed has a spiritual sword. He goes downstairs to ask his parents about his sword, but overhears his mother arguing with his father about a discounted anti-aging cream. He sees that the TV is on and the news is reporting an explosion at a spiritual force chemical plant. Experts are warning against bringing any magic wear of high spiritual force density near spiritual figures. Later, in the breaking news, the Cultivation Council's armored cruise troop surrounds the Shadow Faction's headquarters, marking it the first time the lair of the Shadow Faction has been discovered. A member of the Shadow Faction with a rabbit face cover challenges anyone who wants to enter the headquarters to go through her first. However, she is apprehended by the armored cruise troop. The magic squad then arrives and captures the rest of the Shadow Faction quickly. Master Zhu arrives in his car and the press immediately surrounds him. He addresses the press, stating that in the past he foiled the assassins' plans 2 times and that this time it won't be any different. He also mentions that he is looking forward to meeting the leader of the Shadow Faction. Wang then takes his attention away from the TV and asks his parents the whereabouts of his spiritual sword. He then goes to the attic in search of his sword and finally finds the box containing it, which is glowing in Wang's presence. From inside the box, a small boy with white hair appears, exclaiming that it has been 10 years. Startled, Wang quickly closes the box and feels a sharp pain from his amulet. The next day, Wang gathers with his friends outside the school gate. Chen and Guo make fun of his wooden sword, saying that it is too small and only suitable for children. Sun Girl, however, finds it cute, and Froggy 2 is the only one who realizes the immense power of Wang's sword. The administrator, Zhu, and instructor Pan arrive and inform the group that the competition will take place in Faction 59 for 5 days, requiring them to stay there. Upon seeing that Wang has brought no luggage, the administrator asks him if he knew they would be staying at Faction 59. Wang actually knew about this, but still didn't bring any luggage because he didn't intend to participate in the competition. He thought that after they arrived there, he would pretend to have a stomach ache and return home. Chen offers to share his clothes, but everyone becomes disgusted by this suggestion. Everyone except Zhu boards the bus as he has some emergency he has to take care of. Zhu wishes Wang good luck before Wang closes his window in annoyance. Inside the bus, Wang's sword spirit tries to emerge, but he suppresses it and reminds it of their agreement from the previous day. He had given the sword spirit crispy noodles in exchange for remaining silent. Who knew the key to a powerful spirit was a tasty snack? The bus then arrives at the gate of Faction 59, where they are welcomed by Tang Xing's 3 other students and their instructor, Sti. Pan and Si glare at each other, revealing that they used to be close friends and roommates, but are now rivals. They constantly insult and mock each other. Si approaches Sun Girl and implies that she is the one helping improve Faction 60's financial situation. Pan reminds Si that Sun Girl enrolled at her school, not hers. Pan then approaches a boy near Tang and accuses him of cheating in examinations, bullying schoolmates, and abusing animals, resulting in a public security penalty. She feels as if she has been hit by a bulldozer. Meanwhile, Wang feels anxious and struggles to find an opportunity to feign a stomachache. To get back at Pan, she goes to Wang and uses her grand testing trick on him. A ray of spiritual force passes through him, and he contemplates if he could use this to his advantage and escape from the competition. She then mocks Pan for bringing the student with a spiritual force value of 5 to such a prestigious competition and asks Pan if she is ready to accept her defeat. Wang seizes this opportunity and pretends to collapse on the ground while clutching his chest. Everyone from Faction 60 gathers around him to check if he is alright. Unexpectedly, his sword spirit emerges and tells Wang that his amulet is breaking. As he realizes this, he asks the sword spirit why it didn't tell him earlier, to which it replies that it tried to inform him about it on the bus, but Wang kept shoving it back inside. The amulet then shatters, releasing an unimaginable amount of spiritual force into the sky. Everyone is terrified and suspects C of doing something to harm him. She, however, denies any involvement and accuses him of acting. This angers Sun, and she shouts at C to have a look at Wang and questions how she can call it acting when he is in such a critical condition. Steve then explains that she simply performed a simple spiritual testing trick on him to check his force value and asks the other students of Faction 59 if they did anything, and they all refuse. Sunburl holds Wang in concern, and he continues to pretend to be in distress. Wang is carefully placed on a stretcher by the medical team, and Sunburl rushes to be by his side. When Tang stops her and talks about the time they went to the cultivation cram school together, she is in no mood to listen to his nonsense and asks him to leave her alone. However, he is oblivious to her feelings and proudly boasts about his current position as the chairman of Faction 59's student union. She once again asks him to leave her alone, but when that doesn't work, she tries to throw a punch at him, but is unfortunately stopped by a short girl with white hair. Tang then introduces her as Yishibai, the student union secretary. Ken, concerned for some girl's well-being, goes to her rescue, but is stopped by other Faction 59 students. Meanwhile, Wang's body is engulfed in a blazing surge of spiritual energy, and Instructor Xi ties him up using bandages like a mummy to put it out. Witnessing this, Tang made a remark that hinted at his student going overboard, leaving Sun Girl suspicious that he might be behind Wang's predicament and attempting to harm him. Fueled by anger, she drew her sword Ocean, ready to confront him only to be stopped by the administrator. In the medical room, Wang uses the trick of Flash to escape from the doctors and begins searching for a way to sneak out of Faction 59 to get a new amulet from his father to contain his power. For if he uses more spiritual forces, it may lead to a calamity that could destroy the world. So he calls his dad and explains his situation, who is busy juggling a phone and toilet paper, promises to flush away his current tasks, and jets off on his trusty flying sword to Faction 59. Meanwhile, everyone except for Wang assembles in the gym to receive instructions from Ms. Xi regarding the next day's competition. She explains that the teams will compete on a 5-on-5 basis, and there are 5 altars on the field: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Inserting your sword into an altar accumulates your score, and the first team to reach 100% wins. Tang then proceeds to mock Faction 60, pointing out that they only have 4 members, with Wang currently sick and suggesting they should abstain. However, Hu retorts back saying that Faction 59 also has only 4 members. Tang responds with a menacing laugh, claiming that their 5th member has been there all along. Suddenly, a massive wave nearly crashes into Faction 60, and an odd-looking guy called Bifeng is introduced as the 5th person of the Faction 59 team. However, he immediately proceeds to flirt with Sun Girl and offers to join her side if she accepts his flower. Seeing him trouble Sun Girl, Chen rushes to her defense, but he proves to be immensely powerful and throws away Chen with his spiritual energy with ease. Hu realizes that he is a Golden Pill phase member, and when Chen gets up to attack him again, he fails once more. Bifeng beats him up pretty badly, but Chen is not the one to give up. He remembers his dad's words and how they would not stand still when an injustice occurs. So Chen goes all in with a punch, but Bifeng catches his arm and annihilates it using his negative spiritual energy. Just then, Wang enters the gym thinking he found the exit and catches hold of Chen, who comes flying toward him. As soon as Wang catches him, his arm is restored to normal, shocking everyone. Just as Wang gets a call from his father, asking him to come and get his amulet, he hangs up on him, knowing that he won't be able to sneak away. Seeing Wang, Bifeng wonders how he could have repaired Chen's hand. In truth, when Wang entered, he used his grand trick of repairing on Chen, further damaging his amulet in order to save a friend. Realizing that he might be more powerful than he appears, Bifeng suddenly throws a punch at his face to test his power. Surprisingly, Wang calmly takes the blow and falls to the ground. Bifeng is utterly shocked, realizing that he seems to possess no spiritual force at all. Wang, devoid of any emotions, simply gets up and walks away as if nothing happened. Some girl rushes to him concerned and asks if he is alright. Wang simply holds out the flower from Bifeng and asks her to have it. Bifeng remains baffled, wondering how he managed to take it from him without him sensing anything, given his apparent lack of spiritual force. Everyone is then instructed to leave for their respective preparation rooms. However, Wang excuses himself, saying that he wants to get the limited edition sweet potato-flavored crispy noodles. As he walks, he stumbles upon Bifeng being beaten by the Shadow faction boss. The Shadow Lady then ties both Wang and Bifeng with her immortal binding rope, rendering them unable to escape unless she unties it and hands them over to an old man, her driver. She then proceeds to kick Wang with her heels, oblivious to the fact that breaking the amulet will cause the sealed negative energy to burst, leading to her demise and potentially destroying the world. His sword spirit desperately tries to awaken him to prevent him from accidentally releasing his spiritual energy, but no amount of shouting wakes him up. Finally, when the sword spirit says that today crispy noodles will be available for half the price, Wang jolts awake, causing his sword spirit to let out a sigh of relief. The Shadow Lady then disguises herself as Bifeng and proceeds to join the others, who were deeply engrossed in a heated argument about the upcoming competition. Suddenly, she bursts open the door and announces that Wang has been kidnapped by a woman. Zhu Yi, who joined them anticipating that the Shadow Lady might plan something like this, confirms that the woman is Jiang Luiying, the leader of the Shadow faction. Tang then asks Yisha Bai to use her calculations, and she reveals that there is some spiritual force in the old campus. Sensing the imminent danger, some girls' guards prepare to take her away to ensure her safety. However, she remains resolute and declares that her family never backs down from a fight and leaves with her bodyguards to rescue Wang Ling, and the rest of Faction 6E joins her. Ms. He sends her students as well, but advises them not to participate in the fight as their primary objective is to access their opponent's battle skills. Meanwhile, Wang Ling sleeps peacefully because now he doesn't have to worry about finding a way to avoid the competition. However, his peaceful slumber is interrupted when the driver announces that it's time to do this job and Bifeng starts crying for help. Annoyed, the driver stomps on the ground, causing the entire building to tremble. As a result, Bifeng falls down into the hole created by the driver's powerful stomp. Wang's sword spirit informs him that the old man is a spiritual infant with very strong spiritual force who doesn't want to show it. Sun Girl and the rest of the group arrive at the scene and see Wang tied up on a pole. Xiaobai warns Tang to be careful, as something is different about Bifeng. The driver launches an attack using wolfberry seeds, and the fight begins. Everyone does their best to avoid his powerful attacks. He unleashes his yellow disc treasure house attack, summoning a golden cavalry to do his bidding. Sun Girl instructs her bodyguards to keep their heads low and takes on the cavalry alone. She summons all of her ocean swords and surprisingly manages to hold off the driver for a little while. However, the driver's power is overwhelming and Sun Girl begins to lose the fight and falls rapidly to the ground. Just when things seem dire, Wang Ling intervenes by using his time manipulation ability to rewind back to the moment when the driver stomped the ground. With this advantage, Wang defeats the driver and uses his forgetting trick on Zhu Yi, making it seem as if Zhu Yi was the one who saved him. The driver is then bound with the immortal binding rope and everyone is shocked to see Zhou there. As always, Zhu gets to take the credit and Wang happily keeps his low profile. Zhigong tells the press that all hostages were rescued and that the old man is suspected to be possessed by the remnant of the soul of an ancient devil that was thought to be dead. The 7-star squad investigates the building and one of them asks Wang if the hole was a result of the battle, but he replies that it was already there. As soon as the 7-star squad member leaves, his sword spirit emerges from the hole and asks him what to do with the real Bifeng, who is lying unconscious inside. Wang instructs his sword spirit to keep an eye on him and not let him out, thinking that if Bifeng didn't participate, the competition would be cancelled. However, little did he know that the Shadow Lady, disguised as Bifeng, would be in the competition. So the next day, to his dismay, Wang is forced to take part in the competition that he desperately wanted to avoid, wondering how Bifeng is here. The students are given instructions not to fly above 5 meters and the battle area is covered with a special restoring field so that their cultivation will not be affected even if the participants get hurt during the competition. They are also asked to leave their phones and instead handed Bluetooth earphones to communicate with their team members. Everyone is cheering and excited except for Wang. He contemplates his fate and thinks that he has to participate in the competition as an obligation to his friends for trying to save him, even though it was not needed. The competition begins and the press takes a lot of photos. Xiaobai uses her skills upon Tang's request to gather all the spiritual data on their rivals. Just then, Wang's father comes running to give the amulet to Wang, but it was too late as Wang enters the competition. Upon seeing him, Zhu gets excited and accidentally calls him his master's father, but corrects himself before anyone notices. He tells Zhou about his son's predicament and the amulet breaking, leaving him shocked. Faction 59 hacks into the system and everyone except Bifeng enters the competition in the same place. Meanwhile, all the faction's 60 members are scattered. Xiaobei uses her power to find out the locations of the faction's 60 members, but is unable to find Wang's location due to his low force value. Chen is at the west altar of metal, Sun Ron at the north altar of water, Froggy 2 at the south altar of fire, and Bifeng is also at the altar of fire. Considering everyone else's location, Tang predicts that Wang must have landed at the east altar of wood. As soon as this was said, a member of Faction 59 with orange hair runs to Wang's location. Hu finds himself in the same location as Faction 59 and decides to eavesdrop on them from behind a rock. However, his cover is blown when Tang attacks, but cleverly, Gu had left a decoy in his place. Tang falls for the trick and stabs the decoy, while Gu sneaks away to follow the orange-headed individual who is headed towards Wang's location. He is concerned that he only has 2 of his paper dolls left for decoy, and the competition has only just begun, with his opponents being very powerful. Faction 59 then disperses to fight Faction 60 while capturing the Altar of Earth. Upon hearing this from the announcement, Chen becomes concerned and rushes to capture the metal altar. However, he is unexpectedly hit by sharp leaves that leave scratches all over his body, originating from the tree below, which is the metal altar. Despite this, Chen pushes himself forward, but upon reaching the altar, he wonders how to capture it. Just then, Xiaobei appears and tells him to lower his sword to the altar and wait for 10 seconds. Chen, refusing to fight women, offers her 3 moves in exchange for her help. However, he is puzzled when she claims to be done within a few seconds. Suddenly, Chen can't control himself, and she uses a trick known as the Web of Dimensions to make him hit himself, manipulating his body with false neuronal signals. At the Altar of Fire, Froggy 2 and Bifeng engage in a heated battle. As they exchange punches, Froggy 2 harnesses Bifeng's negative energy, using it to empower itself. However, despite absorbing the negative energy, Froggy 2 is ultimately defeated by Bifeng, who then successfully captures the Altar of Fire. Meanwhile, at the Altar of Wood, the orange-headed guy arrives and finds Wang lying unconscious on the ground. Considering himself lucky, he moves towards the altar with the intention of capturing it. However, Wang regains consciousness after hearing from Froggy 2 through his earphone that capturing enough negative energy can break its seal. Just as the orange-headed guy proceeds to attack Wang, Gu intervenes and strikes him, arriving just in time. They engage in a serious battle while Wang, devoid of any emotions, simply watches them. At the Altar of Water, just as Sun Girl is about to capture the altar, she is suddenly attacked by Tang. They engage in a fierce battle, each wielding their powerful sword spirits. Tang taunts her, claiming they share a sacred bond due to their ancestors. Meanwhile, an announcement is made that Faction 59 has successfully captured 4 altars. In an attempt to turn the tide, Sun Girl tries to use her ocean dance technique, but Tang quickly counters with his trick of blowing snow, causing her move to fail. The battle continues, and to Sun Girl's surprise, Bifeng joins the fight at Tang's request. Now facing 2 formidable opponents, Sun Girl worries about how she can escape their clutches since she can't use her trick of water escape due to the ice and still manage to capture the altar. Suddenly, a deafening blow is heard and the orange-headed guy is sent flying across the sky, eventually getting eliminated from the battle. This powerful force whips the wind and shatters the ice, miraculously providing Sun Girl with the opportunity to escape. Tang remarks that this is a huge negative energy and stronger than Bifeng's and decides to leave to investigate its source. Before departing, he captures the Altar of Water and cryptically tells Bifeng that he doesn't know who he is, but if he follows his direction and helps Faction 59 win, he will be rewarded later. Upon capturing the 5th altar, Faction 59 gains a speed bonus, but then another announcement is made, stating that Faction 60 has now captured the Altar of Wood, leaving everyone surprised. Through Sun Girl's earphone, who informs her that Wang and Froggy 2 have joined forces to capture the altar. Now we see exactly what happened at the wood altar. The orange-headed guy and Gu are engaged in a fierce battle. Gu utilizes his mouth cannon trick, sending powerful bursts of words at his opponent, but he can't repeat it too frequently due to its limitations. After some time, Gu runs out of ideas on what to say, leaving him momentarily defenseless. The orange-headed guy mocks him, claiming he has exhausted his repertoire of words for the trick, and proceeds to insult Wang as spineless trash before delivering a kick. At this moment, Froggy 2 enters the scene with a plot to devour the spiritual energy that would be released during the fight. However, upon seeing Wang, he quickly conceals himself. Gu suddenly gets an idea, but he knows it would come at the expense of his friendship with Wang. He apologizes to Wang in advance and proceeds to say hurtful things about him, sending powerful word cannons at the orange-headed guy. Hearing Gu talk badly about him, Wang feels intense emotions for the first time in a long while. He realizes that his amulet is on the verge of breaking, leaving him unable to use his spiritual energy or express his emotions. Despite this, he is really pissed. Throughout his life, the amulet not only contained his spiritual power, but also suppressed his emotions, making him appear cold and indifferent. Now, with his emotions surging, the amulet starts breaking, releasing a huge amount of negative energy. Seeing this, Froggy 2 jumps at him to consume the negative energy. Wang then forms a strategy. He will now use his spiritual powers just enough for Froggy 2 to consume the excess negative energy. Froggy 2 realizes that he has been set up and pleads with him to be gentle. Wang combines his spiritual forces with Froggy 2 to counteract the negative energy, and they merge into a single entity, with Froggy 2 now attached to his head. Gu is amazed by this and asks him if it's a trick, but the orange-headed guy simply mocks Wang and says that even after all this, he is still just a level 5 trash. Undeterred, Wang walks up to him and casually touches his sword. His touch alone is so powerful that it shatters the sword completely, leaving the orange-headed guy shocked. Wang then effortlessly nudges the orange-headed guy sideways, causing him to soar through the air like a comet. And that's how Wang captures the wood altar and disables the Faction 59 speed boost. After hearing the announcement, Tang starts to panic and asks Xiaobai how this is possible. She tells him that Wang combined his spiritual force with Froggy 2 to capture the altar, and is now headed south towards the fire altar. Soon enough, Wang, along with Guo, gains control of the fire altar, leaving Tang furious. He instructs Bifeng to head to the earth altar and tell the other member of Faction 59 to go to the altar of fire and try to reclaim it. Tang devises a plan since Wang merged with Froggy 2. They are now on equal footing as the orange head guy was eliminated from the competition by Wang. He prioritizes avoiding direct confrontation with Wang Ling and decides to keep watch over the altars while rotating their positions. This strategy will ensure that the rest of Faction 60 is defeated, allowing him to use the 1-4 trick and eventually secure victory. Wang goes to the altar of metal and wakes up Chen Chao. Upon awakening, Chen is startled to see Wang's appearance and immediately searches for Xiaobai, claiming that she cheated him. Wang captures the altar of metal, gaining the upper hand against Faction 59. Seeing Chen excited about this victory, Wang smiles at him, who looks surprised seeing Wang smile, as he was not known to display any emotions before. However, Tang then outmaneuvers them and captures the rest of the altars, leaving the score at 1-4, with Faction 59 leading again. Wang then realizes Tang's strategy, and although he is very powerful, he can't claim the altars one by one. So he tries to increase his speed, but Froggy 2 warns him that it's reaching its limit and asks Wang to stop. Otherwise, the world will be doomed. Thankfully, Wang is interrupted by Sun Girl, who communicates through the earphone informing them that she is with Guo and reveals that Xiaobai is tracking their locations. She mentions that they have one distinctive advantage, Wang Ling, which causes him to blush. Froggy playfully comments on his newfound shyness. Sun Girl asks Wang to capture the Earth Altar, which is guarded by the strongest Faction 59 member Bifeng, and Chen should safeguard the metal altar they have already captured. She explains her plan to use her water trick to disable Xiaobai from tracking her and proceed to the fire altar with Guo, who will distract the Faction 59 member while she captures the fire altar. Xiaobai tells Tang that Sun Girl is heading towards the fire altar, but Tang replies that she has to get past Bifeng to reach there. Suddenly, they realize that she can use her water trick to approach the fire altar without being noticed by Bifeng. As suspected, Sun Girl goes to the fire altar with Guo, using the water to conceal their movement. Upon reaching the altar, Gu starts teasing the Faction 59 guide, distracting him while Sun Girl sneaks inside to capture the altar. Tang hurriedly communicates through the earphone, telling the Faction 59 guy to get back to the altar immediately and prevent Sun Girl from capturing it. The Faction 59 guy hurries to the altar to stop Sun Girl, so Gu uses his cannon of words to attack him. However, instead of hitting the guy, it accidentally hits Sun Girl as he trips on a rock and falls to the ground. This pushes her away from the altar and gives Tang enough time to join them. Sun Girl remembers her father's words about not losing to anyone, especially Tang's family, who humiliated their family for 14 years with the art of confinement. Tang shouts at the guy to hurry up and reclaim the sword, while Gu apologizes for missing the first time and aims again at him. He manages to hit him, but it was not strong enough to stop the guy. So Sun Girl throws one of her sword at the altar and starts fighting the guy with her other swords. However, the countdown doesn't start since it requires the participant to insert the sword themselves. Realizing this, Sun Girl goes to the altar to reinsert the sword herself, but suddenly Tang's sword spirit intervenes and breaks her sword. Tang then mocks her for losing her opportunity to win the altar and tells her that although he planned on winning with an overwhelming 5-0, he is still happy to win 4-1, and he taunts them about the dire situation Faction 60 is in. Everything becomes clear to Sun Girl, and she realizes that they can't afford to let Tang capture the fire altar or else they will lose. Tang had sent Xiaobei to keep an eye on Wang, and Bifeng is tasked with defeating Chen. If Wang leaves to capture another altar, then Xiaobei will reclaim the one he left, thus nullifying their progress and securing victory for Faction 59. So she tells Gu that they have to do everything possible to stop them from claiming this altar, and Chen must do the same to prevent Bifeng from capturing the metal altar. Meanwhile, Wang arrives at the metal altar and starts fighting Chen. However, he recalls Sun Girl's words and dodges Bifeng's attacks instead of fighting back, as all he has to do is keep Bifeng from inserting his sword into the altar. Chen does a pretty good job at avoiding Bifeng's attacks, and realizing this, Bifeng taunts him, calling him a coward in an attempt to provoke Chen into attacking. Upon hearing Bifeng's words, Chen recalls his bitter childhood and how his father would call him a coward and beat him up if he didn't perform to his standard. Despite the rush of emotions, Chen remains resilient, controls his feelings, and continues dodging Bifeng's attacks, infuriating him. Just then, a leaf falls from the tree standing above the altar, and Bifeng realizes why it's called the metal altar. The tree itself is made of metal, so he gathers all the falling metal leaves using his spiritual energy and throws them at Chen, injuring him badly. But despite this, he tries to stop Bifeng, further enraging him and leading to the annihilation of Chen's arms. Meanwhile, at the fire altar, Sun Girl realizes that Chen is in danger and asks Gu to leave and help him. Gu hesitates and says that she can't go against Tang and the other guy alone, but she insists on him leaving. Gu moves away from them and hides, secretly charging his sword, Ghost Tooth, while Sun Girl fights Tang's sword spirit alone. Back at the metal altar, Chen is severely injured but continues trying to stop Bifeng, who kicks him several times before going to the altar to insert his sword. Chen attempts to get up, but he couldn't and tears up as he promised to hold the altar and doesn't want to let down his friends. Just then, Xiaobei contacts Tang and tells him that two spiritual forces are bursting from the fire and metal altars, and adds that it's Gu's spiritual force. Suddenly, a phoenix emerges from Gu's sword, his sword spirit Devil Tooth. It is extremely powerful but requires the sacrifices of other sword spirits. Sun Girl and Gu had planned this previously. She sacrifices her sword spirit, which joins forces with Gu's phoenix spirit, and together they unleash a huge fire blast at Tang and the other guy, defeating them. Meanwhile, Chen, fueled by his sacrifices, is awakened with a revitalized, spiritual energy-infused arm due to Gu's sword spirit. He blasts away Bifeng, stopping the countdown and reclaiming the metal altar by throwing away Bifeng's sword and inserting his own. This leads Faction 60 to a 3-1 lead. Meanwhile, Wang captures the altar of wood, furthering their lead to 4-1. Suddenly, Bifeng, enraged by Sun Girl and her team's success, reveals himself as the Shadow Boss Lady. We now see exactly what happened during the strategy session and what led to Faction 60 capturing 4 altars. At the strategy session, Sun Girl suggests that if Sheet and Gu take the fire altar and Chen Cheo keeps the metal altar, they will still be unable to catch up with Faction 59's progress. Therefore, in order to secure victory, they must use their secret weapon, Wang Ling. The plan is for Wang Ling to pretend to be at the water altar. When Gu charges his sword and his sword spirit emerges, Xiaobei will be distracted while contacting Tang. At that moment, Froggy 2 and Wang will unlink their spiritual connection, allowing Wang to reach the Earth altar without Xiaobei being able to track him due to his low force value. Xiaobei will continue to assume that it's Wang at the water altar, but in reality, it will be Froggy 2. Everything goes according to Sun Girl's plan. Gu summons his sword spirit in the form of a phoenix called Devil Tooth with the help of Chen and Sun Girl's sacrifices, allowing him to defeat Tang and the other guy and capture the altar of fire. Upon hearing the announcement that the fire altar has been captured by Faction 60, Xiaobei hurries to the altar of wood and asks Bifeng to immediately get to the altar of earth and defend it. Just then, another announcement is made saying that Faction 60 has also captured the altar of wood and is leading by 4-1. Xiaobei is shocked, wondering who could have reached the wood altar if Wang is at the water altar. Suddenly, Froggy 2 decides to reveal his identity and startles Xiaobei. She tries to control Froggy 2 with her web of dimension trick, but it doesn't work on him. Froggy 2 tells her that it's because her spiritual line is meant for humans and not for creatures like him. He further adds that it was her web of dimension that enabled him to locate her exact whereabouts, and he mocks her, saying that she was outwitted by her own trick. Gu tells Sun Girl to go check on Wang at the Earth altar, while he goes to the metal altar and joins Chen. She agrees and leaves to join Wang Ling. Although they currently have more altars, they are still lagging in the progress bar with nearly 11% behind Faction 59. While all this is happening at the arena, Wang's dad, who is in the control room with the Faction 59 and Faction 60 staff, wonders how his son is doing. Since he was a child, Wang has grown accustomed to ignoring both success and failure. To him, it doesn't make any difference. For a long time, he had never had to worry about much as his amulet suppressed all his emotions. From a very young age, his parents taught him to control the extent of his emotions. He was very successful at it until he met Sun Girl for the first time, which he offered him protection after defeating his bully, and that's when he felt a little pang of emotion. From then on, he starts experiencing emotions little by little, like when Chen declares that he is a friend for life, or during the date night with Sun Girl when the fireworks go off, or when his friends supported him. All of this leads him to experience emotions like the dim light that had developed into the warm sun of spring, and is now about to ignite a fire of emotions within Wang. As he goes to the Earth altar to capture it, he is overcome by many emotions and recalls how happy his friends were to see him. He trembles with emotion, unable to keep his sword steady at the altar, and his amulet starts breaking again. But his emotions intensify. The more he tries to restrain them, the more they intensify, causing a surge of negative energy to break from him. However, Sun Girl joins him and holds his hand, and together they capture the altar of Earth, securing victory in the competition. Meanwhile, Guo goes to the metal altar and sees Chen Chao hanging from the metal tree, barely alive. Guo takes him down from the tree and holds Chen in his arms, crying. The staff members see this through the digital display, and the administrator shouts at Ms. He, stating that this was not part of the competition, and Chen is severely hurt in reality, not a simulation. Ms. Shi explains that there are guardian spiritual figures throughout the competition, but Chen was attacked by someone beyond Golden Pill Phase 3, a real master who should not be part of this competition. Only those with such extreme power can break the guardian spiritual figure and harm a person in reality. At the altar of Earth, Sun Girl compliments Wang Ling's blushing face and encourages him to be himself. However, suddenly, the Shadow Boss Lady, who disguised herself as Bifeng and injured Chen, stabs Sun Girl to death. Sun Girl's soul leaves her body and Wang Ling cries out in fury. His amulet, which has held on for so long, finally breaks, and the world starts to collapse under the overwhelming amount of his spiritual energy. Froggy 2 runs to Wang to stop his spiritual energy from leaking and prevent the world from being doomed. But Wang is still furious and proceeds to attack the Shadow Boss Lady, enraged by Sun Girl's death. So Froggy 2 freezes the flow of time, but Wang breaks free from it and continues to attack the Shadow Boss Lady in the air, leading her to unfreeze as well. He looks like a monster, with his eyes glowing fiery red, and continues his relentless assault, while the Shadow Boss Lady taunts him, mocking his inability to protect Sun Girl. Enraged even more, Wang intensifies his attack and is about to deliver the final blow. However, he suddenly stops, even with the Shadow Boss Lady begging him to finish her. He recalls his memories with Sun Girl and the time they spent together. He goes to Sun Girl's body and cradles her. He tries to use his grand trick of preparing to restore her, but doesn't work. Froggy 2 tells him that the Shadow Boss Lady hit her with such hatred that Sun Girl's spirit tore apart, and even Wang can't save her. Despite this, he notices that she is still warm and breathing. Froggy 2 explains that it's because he has stopped the flow of time that Sun Girl is still alive, but if a trick is lifted, she will be gone permanently. Feeling helpless, Wang cries and tells Froggy 2 that there has to be another way to save her. Froggy 2 informs him that the only thing it can do is help him freeze the flow of time forever, so that she will retain whatever little vitality she has left inside. Wang realizes how lonely his life will be without her and declares that he will use all his spiritual energy to save her. Froggy 2 warns that doing so will destroy the world, but Wang insists that he will restart the world again. Wang Ling has already restarted the world 4 times, and each time he hoped that everything would be restored to its original state, including Sun Girl being alive. However, no matter how many times he resets the world, Sun Girl remains dead. His sword spirit joins him and tells him that Sun Girl's vital spirits have been broken into pieces, and no one can save a life that is already gone. Despite this, Wang proceeds to restart the world again, but Froggy 2 tells him that it is useless. The result will be the same no matter how many times he resets it. Wang cries out of desperation and regrets not finishing the Shadow Boss Lady sooner, as then Sun Girl would still be alive with him. Froggy 2 explains that now that he has stopped the flow of time, they can take their time to figure something out. Wang asks him how he controls time, to which Froggy 2 explains that his special ability is to convert spiritual forces into an accelerating ray. This allows the spiritual force flowing in their bodies to be accelerated up to the speed of light, effectively keeping the world relatively still. Wang gets an idea and asks Froggy 2 if they would be able to go back in time if they move faster than light. Froggy 2 agrees, but he warns that it would require a tremendous amount of spiritual force. Wang tells him that he can do it, and Froggy 2 cautions him that this goes against the law of nature. However, Wang is determined and only wants to save Sun Girl, so he joins forces with Froggy 2, and together, they go back in time. Suddenly, Wang is back in time to his first day of high school, when the seniors start bullying him. But this time, he is protected from the bullies by Chen and Guo, not Sun Girl, and he hands over the $10 to them, wondering why he just did that. Sun Girl is not in the classroom either, and Wang can't remember her. But every time when Sun Girl was supposed to be there, he feels intense emotion even though he doesn't understand why. He chases behind a car, thinking that he recognizes it to be someone's car he knew, but Sun Girl is not there as well. Instead, he finds Tang and Xiaobei. Everywhere he goes, he feels like someone is missing and he has moments of déjà vu. The new world seems to be just the same, but without her. Although Wang Ling is now enjoying the peaceful life he always wanted in the new world, the reality is that when Wang's trick of space and Froggy 2's trick of time converged, there was an injection of a large amount of spiritual force, creating a new world without Sun Girl. This new world constantly absorbs everything from the old world, except her, which will eventually lead to the old world's destruction. As time passes, it seems that no one from the old world can stop this from happening. However, just when it appears that nothing can prevent the destruction, Sun Girl's soul enters the underworld. A servant of the underworld takes her to their new master, explaining that they have a problem. The master of the underworld immediately recognizes her as the daughter of the Flower Fruit Water Curtain Group, the ancestry of the former master of the underworld. Upon realizing this, the newly crowned master becomes frightened and decides to send her back before Wang could destroy all three worlds. Meanwhile, in the new world, Wang and his class visit the heavenly paradise. At the fortune-telling cave, Zhou is their guide and everyone tries their luck, but Wang feels something amiss and decides to test his fortune. To everyone's surprise, the fortune cave breaks. As they continue through the various rides and games of the heavenly paradise, Wang Ling suffers from déjà vu. Chen and Guo notice that he has been acting strangely, and Wang tells them that he feels as though he has been here with someone special before. They remind him that they are there to have fun and tell him not to worry too much. They all go to ride the Ferris wheel together. On the Ferris wheel, Wang Ling finally breaks down, realizing someone important isn't there, and memories of Sun Girl flood his mind. Meanwhile, in the old world, Sun Girl wakes up alive and sees Wang's sword spirit. She asks him what happened, and he explains everything that took place until now. He tells her that if they don't wake Wang up from the old world, this world will soon be destroyed. Sun Girl is determined to save the world and wakes Wang up by thwarting his spiritual force from the new world he accidentally created. Wang finally realizes what happened and remembers Sun Girl. He understands that he was in another world he inadvertently created. Breaking free from the new world, he reunites with Sun Girl in their original world. This time, when Wang goes back to the time of the competition and Chen captures the altar of metal, the shadow boss lady, disguised as Bifeng, reveals herself. He defeats her before she can harm Sun Girl, and they finally win the competition, ensuring Sun Girl's safety. However, Sun Girl does not remember anything that happened before this point, and we are taken back to the time when Wang and Sun Girl must make a choice to save the world. Wang has the ability to go back in time and stop the Shadow Boss Lady, but it would mean Sun Girl losing her memories of the other world. Sun Rong assures Wang that even if she doesn't remember them saving each other, her feelings will still bring her back to him. As the time resets, Wang defeats the Shadow Boss Lady, and everything goes smoothly. Froggy 2 asks him if he is happy about the outcome, knowing that Sun Girl won't remember him saving her. Just then, his dad comes up to him with a new amulet. Froggy 2 warns him that his feelings will turn cold once he puts it on. However, upon seeing Sun Girl and everyone else happy about their victory, Wang puts on the new amulet, hoping for world peace.